Hey there guys, it's Metro, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Molten K, a brand new island that has been put on the Battle for Azeroth Alpha and now into the beta as well. It was out last week, but I tried to test it and there was some bugs with finding it, so I wasn't able to do that, but we're on it now. And today I want to make the video because there's been even more information about islands that have come out recently, especially from the Q&A. But basically, the long and short of it is that we now know that island expeditions will be apparently the best way to get Azerite power, now called artifact power, by the way. But yeah, I think this is interesting. I guess this has probably been in the works the whole time. And, you know, when I complete this, I'm going to get a chunk of 100, which is very small, but... they talk about they're going to be here. I'm going to read this out. It says every week you'll go to a board, I guess like kind of like a weekly type thing, a quest or something like that. See what the scouts have found and head to islands. You'll then compete or complete some each week, get a bonus for the first one you do, and then you can keep doing them, but they'll be less rewarding. So another thing that was talked about last week when this was first added was that they're going to be doing a rotation of, I think it's 3 each week. So they're going to be a little bit different each time. And of course, the islands also are going to have, different mobs on them each time. So for this one, it's quite interesting. This was another thing I was happy to show off. Now, there's actually trolls on this island. Some important, like Witherbark and all that. Relatively important lore, trolls in the lore. And that's cool. The previous, when we were doing the testing in the previous one, it was always monkeys and stuff. And that was, I don't know, it was fine, but kind of felt disconnected to the expansion, right? Because, I don't know if they were going for like a mop feel with that. But regardless, this one is way more interesting to me. I really like the textures. I like the colors. I like the volcanic activity going on in this. And we actually get some pretty cool weather at the end as well. This is the first time I've seen the weather that you're going to see at the very end here. But this is normal, so it's still very easy, and I've tested a bunch of Heroic and Mythic and all that now, but I can never find any groups for the PvP, just probably because it requires 3v3, 6 players total instead of just 3, but I will, double down by saying that the AI are really, really good. We talked about this probably about a month and a half ago now, and the more I've done these, the more impressed I become by the AI. It's not necessarily gotten... it's not really gone through any big iterations, but what I will say about it is that it does actually feel like human players, to the point where, like I said, if the raid frames weren't, if it wasn't obvious that it wasn't a human player because of the way everything looked, and the fact that they're not real classes, I could easily find myself thinking, hey, that's an actual player. So that's really good, and you see it pretty well here. We don't necessarily engage too much with the NPCs. Only one time it happens. But something that's relatively new as well on the island is that if you ever push them into a position of their being, I guess, in danger or maybe uncomfortable with the situation, or maybe a couple of them are dying, they're going to try to get away from you. And this wasn't present in the first looks that we did at this. They basically just fought you over and over again. In fact, they were so aggressive that they would just come and be farmed. They would just run to their deaths. You'd fight 3 of them, you'd kill 2. 1 would still be alive. The other 2 would come rushing in. You'd kill the first one. The 2 would get there. You'd kill those 2. They just keep rushing into their deaths, and it was pretty boring, frankly. And now I still don't necessarily enjoy fighting them because it does take a long time, and I don't necessarily know why you would. Especially in this one, you're going to see it in a bit. It's just kind of a waste of time. You don't really get anything from fighting them, but I guess at the same time, you're preventing them from getting something. So really the way I look at it is the island situation for PvE elements anyway. If you're trying to win and you're maybe down, you're not winning currently, maybe the best option is to go and wipe them and then get whatever they were fighting, or, kind of ambush them. Perhaps they're fighting a rare. You can go in and kill them and then get the rare. Also, you're going to see it in this clip here. They're fighting something that drops like a power-up, and I try to get it, but I don't think I do. I have the power-up there. You see that blue-yellowish trail. That's anytime you kill like a rare or like an important mob on the island. It's going to drop this little crystal on the ground. It's like a bluish kind of cloud-looking crystal. You can pick it up for, I believe it's a percentage damage increase. And try to grip some things there. Don't get anything that I want to grip there, but yeah, as you see, they were fighting a rare when we pulled up on them. I'm kind of chasing this one. I'm not really sure. It's so difficult to tell what they're actually doing because they're all using spells that just don't exist in the game. So I don't actually know, if this is a DPSer. He's targeting one of our players, so presumably he's some kind of DPSer. So I'm trying to prevent him, interrupt him. Grip doesn't prevent the cast, doesn't stop the cast, so I don't know. It's difficult, and that's one of the things about this is it's like facing all new classes effectively, because I literally don't recognize the animations. I don't know what I need to move out from, what I can interrupt, what I could stop. I'm not really sure, so... but one way or the other, it's quite good. Like I said, there's a lot of really fun stuff on these islands, and the fact that there's going to be multiple different types is really good, because the first one was fun, and there was enough variables in it that it was still kind of engaging. Like there was a couple different types of mobs. It was the rares would be different each time. The locations where the Azeroth stuff was different each time. The weather was different each time. The kind of like there's basically a couple things that you progress through. You just start out with whatever's on the island at first. Then the NPCs come. You could fight them. Then as you move on, there's like the timer eventually expires, and it shows you everything that's on the map. And then eventually the weather thing, like elementals kind of like fall. I guess they like come to the island, and they change the way the island, like the weather and the way the island appears. So, all of those things are different each time, and no matter what, like it's just random. So even if there was only one map, it could still be interesting each week. But the fact that there's multiple, and now we're seeing this just to be absolutely gorgeous. Really, I have to commend Blizzard on kind of like this verdant look that they managed to master this expansion. They did a great job with it. And there's one of the Seafarer's doubloons. It's the first time I've seen one of those, by the way. I'm not exactly sure where or when you might find them, but I did find one there, and they're the things that you could purchase, like the grenades, stuff that we experimented with in the first video that I made all the way back in the day on this. But yeah, you can use those as a rep, like a currency more like, to purchase very strong items that will make this a lot quicker or easier. And up until the previous build, I still had some of my inventory, and they were actually usable out in the world. So I don't think that was intended. But anyway, here's a little thing. I've been looking at this, trying to find this big temple's location. Finally find it. It's covered with NPCs that are elite. So actually, there's only one elite. I'm not really sure what is destroying me. It's got to be this elite's Shadow Bolt. It's doing a lot of damage, but regardless, bit off more than I could chew here, and this is only normal. Now, the scaling is finally gone as well. That's one of the best things about the beta. It actually is playing like a real game now. And I'd say if there was one thing that you could take away from, what the big difference between alpha to beta is, it would really be that they're allowing us to actually progress our characters now. Instead of just testing what they want us to test when they want us to test it, using, templates and other things like that you might not be able to have any impact on, then now with the beta, you're actually able to gear up, progress your character. You'll see the power gains. I've already seen a big damage increase just from, when I got to 120 to, getting those few mythic 0 pieces of gear. And my power level and health and all that has gone up substantially, so that's great. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the idea here, like I said, with the multiple really venues, really the atmosphere is so unique. I think this is really gorgeous, and I have to say that I think Battle for Azeroth has really included some of the best looking textures the game has ever seen. I mean, I would be confused to hear anyone disagree with that. Like, I think these are just a step up. And Legion had some really nice looking stuff too, but as you see, just an incredible amount of detail on the trees. The quality of the kind of like the grass mixed with dirt on the ground. If you just take a look at what I'm standing on right now, it looks very rich. Quite vibrant, and verdant, of course, is the way to describe it. It's like very rich green, a lustrous green, and it gives you this feeling that you're in like a really, a really habitat, like a really, I don't know how to describe it, like a really rich habitat, something that's got a lot of history to it, a lot of depth to it. And, if you go back to like Stranglethorn Vale, if you compare this to like classic Stranglethorn Vale, which is, equally troll-inspired, a lot of jungle elements, a lot of tall trees, a lot of stuff like that. They just don't compare, This is just so much more believable. This feels way more like a tropical island, like with a jungle on it, than anything that was in the game prior. And, even Jade Forest, which I look really at as one of the best designed zones in the game, it doesn't really stand up to this. And basically, all it would need is the trees and the textures and stuff from the modern game, from BFA, to put into that zone. It would be great. But You know, we saw it a bit with the war fronts as well. It was basically exactly Arathi Highlands, but they put all kinds of new trees, some new grass textures, some new path textures, stuff like that, and it makes the zone, it just completely transforms the way the zone looks. And, you know, people will get used to this quickly. They'll, you know, by the end, they'll forget. You know, I remember having the same conversation about Vortex Pinnacle, thinking it was just one of the most gorgeous 5-mans ever in the game. And, you know, now looking back at that, it's nothing compared to what we had even in MOP. But it's just important, you know, that the graphical fidelity improves. And you're really getting a good look at that from the islands. I think the islands are spearheading that discussion, because they're able to put in multiple different types of atmospheres and now, of course, weathers too. So I'm really excited for that. The gameplay itself, you know, we talked about this at length. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I don't necessarily enjoy it. It doesn't strike me as something I will do many, many, many times. But like I said, we found out that the island expeditions will be the best way to get Azeroth and now artifact power. So that's cool, I guess. I mean, who knows how this is going to work out. We'll see. Maybe what it looks like when we finally get the you know, the daily or the weekly, whatever it is, and we could test it out properly. I'm going to try to do more testing. There's apparently a third island that I've yet to see or cover on the channel, so we'll check that out. But anyway, there you go. We complete one. Like I said, we get 100 artifact power again. It's going to be hard to get used to that. But anyway, that's that. Let me know if you guys have any questions or anything you want to discuss about this. I'm pretty satisfied with the feature, and I'm looking forward to seeing the future of it. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how much it can potentially reward us. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.